Yeah. Was there a definitive point in time where you realized, okay, something's just not right with my vision, or was it just kind of a continual and progressive thing where eventually you had some recognition that something wasn't right?
So I had always, ever since I was around like 17, I was always going to a specialist in Georgia to get my eyes checked, and they were running all these tests and all these tests, and they couldn't figure anything out. And that kind of like discouraged me from keeping going because it was these, the tests that kind of wear on you after a while. I remember the last test I got, they stuck some what is it? It's like plant dye
Uh-huh.
into your veins,
Yeah.
and they had it through my veins, and they took pictures of my retinas, and that was a very painful procedure. And I was after that, I was like, I would take a little break. So kind of fast forward a little bit, I was driving one night, and when it gets a little rainy outside and it's dark, it just becomes really, really hard, even with my high beams. It gets really hard for me to kind of see 100%. I would say I'm probably about 70% of my ability to see. And this one night, traffic had kind of stopped in front of me kind of abruptly, and I tried to like hit on the brakes, but when it kind of happened fast, but it happened slow at the same time. I thought to myself, like, if I move over to the left lane, like there was oncoming traffic, so there was no space for me to kind of clear and not hit the car behind me because I was moving too fast. Um, but I looked over to my right, and since I perceived it as being like very dark, I
Yeah.
couldn't see that like there was a huge like ravine there. So I chose, you know, what I thought was, the better option. And I kind of slammed on my brakes, and I yanked the steering wheel to the right to clear the car in front of me so I didn't like slam into the back of them. And my car just went airborne.
Oh goodness.
And yeah, and then I landed inside of a river, so I couldn't get out the car. Like, shout out to General Motors, they saved my life. But I landed in this ravine, and the paramedics and everything, they had to like break my window and kind of rescue me outside of the river. I had to like stay in the car and do all these different things to like make sure like the water didn't flood in on me. And it
Yeah.
was just one of those moments where I realized, like, all right, it's time for me to stop driving. So after that, I stopped driving, even though I still had my license, because it takes a lot for them to kind of take your
Yeah,
life.
I guess so, and not something to joke about, but
Yeah.
it sound was this in Georgia that you were? Sounds like
Yeah.
they have fairly lenient or lax rules in terms of driver's license, but it also sounds like, I mean, you're lucky to be alive from the sounds of it.
Yeah, for sure. That was one of the scariest moments in my life. One of the scariest moments in my life. And after that, that really scared me. And
Mm.
also, while I was at home, during that time, I saw this other there's another story, and you may not have heard about this, but it might have just only made it in Georgia. There was a young lady who was driving,
Mm.
and she hit the back of a car on the highway, and that car swerved across onto the other side of the highway, and it took out like 7 or 8 cars.
Mm.
And and sh- and she, sorry, my computer is
Oh,
doing
that's
something
fine.
crazy. Um, but she took out like 7 or 8 cars on that side, and then she ended up hitting like 4 or 5 cars, and it ended up killing like around 10 people, right? And the whole thing was because she didn't wear her glasses, and her mom tried to help her cover it up and get the car fixed. And then her dad at the time was deployed in the military,
Uh-huh.
and he gets home, and his wife and his daughter is now in jail because they try to cover up this
Yeah.
accident that his daughter had, all because she didn't want to wear her glasses.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
those two things happening to me reinforce the fact that I just need to, like, all right, sell my car and sit down. And
Yeah.
that's a hard decision, like, man, like, to stop driving. So I
Yeah.
felt like at that point it was the most responsible thing for me to do.
Right. So did you feel like your independence was being taken from you, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, significantly. And you remember this is pre-Uber, you know.
Yeah.
so so uh,
Yeah.
it was tough because I had to rely on like cabs and friends just to get to work. And even at work, I was struggling because I was running into things more and more. And even my boss had to tell me, she was like, Antoine, you need to like take care of yourself. Like this job is always going to be here. Like you need to go figure out what's going on with your vision.